I do have a question for you guys, though, real quick. Like all of you, like, what is your thoughts about how Nebraska season went? You know, there was a lot of success from uh, individual players. Sometimes you had the pitching staff step up. Some good wins, some bad ones. I really just want your thoughts on how you felt the baseball season went coming off of last year.
I mean, I think I don't want to be too harsh because I don't want to make it sound like it should be easy to win in the Big Ten Conference. I think it was a missed opportunity. I think that's an okay way to categorize it for me. You have two, I don't know, Austin, top 8 round draft picks on your team. Top 5 round.
Maybe.
I don't know how much Bryce Matthews' defense hurts him in draft picks. I don't know. So that's why I think I expanded that a little larger. But
athleticism might help.
Athleticism and obviously the bat, right? Yeah. And Max Anderson, who had an incredible Big Ten tournament, right? And just an incredible season overall hitting. I don't know. I think if you feel like if your pitching would have been able to help you out just a little bit more, you might have won a lot more midweek games and won some more games. I think you look at some of the games they lost and they're losing 12-8 and they're losing 13-9 and
16-16
it's like, yeah, it's like, dang, in a baseball game, especially at the collegiate level, more often than not, you would like to think that 6 runs would be able to win you a baseball game or 8 runs would be able to win you a baseball game. And unfortunately, time after time, Nebraska would lose games that were approaching double digits. And it's like you could score and it would be frustrating because they could hit well, but unfortunately they couldn't get anybody. They couldn't get a reliable arm out of the bullpen. And now next year, one of your more reliable arms that was this year in Corbin Hawkins is now going to be retiring from baseball.
I'm going to categorize it as a mild disappointment.
Okay.
Maybe looking back, it shouldn't be as surprising as I think. If you told me Nebraska would have lost in the Big Ten semis at the start of the year, okay, yeah, that's probably fine. But I'd also tell you they're probably in line for an NCAA tournament bid. So
yeah.
It strikes me as a step forward record-wise, but maybe a step back program-wise because of all the turnover, because of all the guys they had to bring in, and now all the guys they're losing. Yeah. Think about the guys that made that NCAA, tournament. They made that regional in Arkansas. That was a program. Those were guys that had been there for a while. And now you're losing a lot of those mainstays. So you kind of have to rebuild the program aspect of it, even though the record and the end of the season result got better than it was last year.
I think also to just kind of build off of that, you're going to have to find a lot of new roles next year, right? You obviously are losing your 2 middle infielders in Max and Bryce, and Dylan Carey, who spent most of the year at third base, is kind of going to slide over into that shortstop role. And I think there's a lot of excitement around Dylan Carey, and rightfully so. But just to kind of list some of the guys that you're going to lose, Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews, Emmett Olson, right to the draft probably. Yep. Those 3 are the main ones. Then you're going to lose Charlie Fisher. You're going to lose Shea Shanneman, Casey Burnham. Well, Bunn's just into the portal. Kyle Perry, Griffin Everett, Efrain Cervantes, and Luke Sartori. So, I mean, there's not only some starters on that list in Casey Burnham, right? But there's bullpen arms in Buns, Kyle Perry, Shea Shanneman now.
It's a lot of
there's
names.
Friday guy.
That's a lot of names that you hear on the regular during a Nebraska baseball game.
I'm not sure. Can Jace Kaminska be your Friday night guy?
And he's at his best he can, but if you have to give him a month off in the middle of the season, again,
it just worries you. And now, are you?
Hey, you've got Will Walsh.
Well, Walsh, Will Walsh had the complete game shutout in the Big Ten tournament, but
does he hold up over a full season?
I was say, just do that again. Just do that every time, please and thank you.
It's what's interesting is like, who do you go to now out of the bullpen? It's who are your guys out of the bullpen? Who are your midweek starters? Now, a lot of those are younger guys at times, right? The midweek starters. We've seen Drew Christo be a midweek starter for 2 years now. Is he on the progression to become a weekend guy? I'm not sure. Where's Jackson Brockett? You lose CJ Hood as well. Hood was, don't forget, a Major League Baseball prospect coming out of high school at Norris, but then had an injury and kind of just dissipates and now is no longer part of the team in the portal. So there's a lot of question marks, I think, about next year. Now, the good thing is we've seen this staff's ability to recruit. They have a lot of excitement coming in recruiting wise with younger guys and throughout the portal. You got your DH and Charlie Fisher through the portal and things like that this season. So I think I looked at it as maybe not surprised, but a missed opportunity, because you would have felt like you could have, with the guys on this roster and some of the names that were in the bullpen, you knew you were going to have to find a Friday guy. You knew you had to find some other guys. But especially you saw what that team did in 2021 with Spencer Schwellenbach with one draft pick, right? And you look at it and those don't grow on trees. And you were fortunate enough now to have and develop 2 top 5, top 8 round picks. And unfortunately you're done playing by the end of May. And so I think it's a little frustrating.
Who's the core next?
Paul. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. Bring. I was gonna tap into that, because I really then have a deeper question, and the deeper question for me goes into: does this go across programs, across sports, right? Because now we're understanding that there always, in some form or fashion, is going to be a large swath of potentially turnover in your program. So is there a system in the building of a program that can put you in position to continuously have success in the turnover era of sports in college program? So being that that's the case, is there a way of building it with foundational pieces, like you're saying, the ability to recruit, go in and get young players, have those system and program guys that are 3-4 year guys, and then also add pieces and build it? And is that cross program? Are we looking at that for football? Are we looking at that also in basketball, girls, women's sports, all of that? I really want to ask that deeper question. Is there a way to do it? Is there special sauce in the in the recipe that could be thrown in there to make it zesty and make it tasteful?
I would be interested, because obviously I think with baseball, you're going to lose close to, double-digit guys every year. There's going to be guys that move on from your team nearing double digits, that 8 to 12 range every single season. Now, I also don't know. It really felt like the staff may have lost confidence in Jake Buns, and obviously there was some injury there, but there were multiple times throughout the Big Ten tournament where he was warming up and they elected to go with somebody else. And part of that's game management and time, and when you needed to make the change on the mound and matchups with lineups and things like that. And I understand that, but it just really felt like ever since number one, 2021 against Arkansas, and then just after the injury, he lost a little stuff on his fastball. He lost a little bit of velocity, and he started to get it back, I suppose, towards the end of the year. But just the I don't want to say clutch factor, but the ability to come in and slam the door didn't feel like it was there with Jake Buns or really anybody on this team, right? Anybody in that bullpen. So I'd be curious. I think to your point, Strick, I think this year there's going to be a lot of, with every sport, and this may be where the crossover happens, guys that decide to leave and guys that say are kind of told, hey man, it's probably best if you move on. We're going to go in a different direction.
I think the sauce is the same, where, especially in college, I think you're trying to thread that needle pretty tight, where you need good enough players that have a high enough, just talent coming in that they're going to be good college players, but not so good that they're going to get picked out from under you in the MLB draft out of high school. Because then once you have them on campus, you have them for 3 years.
Which is crazy, because, sorry to interrupt, but Drew Christo was that guy. Mm-hmm. Drew Christo's that guy. And people, I brought his name up in the earlier show. Chase Mason was that guy. And unfortunately, Chase Mason decides to move on from the program and go to football. But once again, Drew Christo's that guy. And he showed minor improvement this year. But I think this is a very important offseason ahead for him, because if he can carve out that Sunday maybe role, that's even that Sunday role where it's all right, this guy's going to come in, provide us 4, maybe 5 quality innings every single performance, or for the majority of them, to where we don't have to exhaust our bullpen after 2 or 3 innings and be playing from behind after the start of the game. That's what Nebraska's been looking for. the Shea Shannon of recent years.
Right. Those are good specific examples. And then to Strick's point, you need enough guys like that are talented enough, but that stick around.
Yeah.
Because then that gives you time with the next class.
Yeah.
And then they do that. So every year you're losing those guys that have been there, but you have guys that have already been in the program a year or two that are ready for their chance.
Yeah. And
it takes that one class setting that example. And then you got to prove you can consistently recruit and develop.
Well, and that was what was so crazy about that 2021 year. And I hate to keep, revisionist history, and we probably got to get out of here soon because we're taking up your guys' time.
Yeah,
but yeah, geez, what are we doing? But this is actually a really good conversation.
Yeah, we're okay with good conversations, Nick.
Yeah. So
great conversations in the crossover is always.
I think what's fascinating about that 2021 year is that you had this blend of guys in like Joe Acker and Mojo Hagee, and obviously Luke Roskam was on that team. Griffin Everett was kind of coming into his own. He was a sophomore at the time, I believe. And so like you had these guys, obviously Spencer Schwellenbach was there as well. But then you had Max Anderson, who kind of fell into Nebraska's lap. And I don't want to say that as a slight to Nebraska's coaching staff, but at the end of the day, it was Texas A&M for Max Anderson until he couldn't go to Texas A&M.
You can say it without being a slight.
Yeah,
it got lucky.
It wasn't a slight at all. It wasn't a slight at all. I don't mean it that way in the least. But Max Anderson comes in, has a freshman of the year. He is Big Ten freshman of the year. And you have this great blend of guys that were real experienced. Even a Logan Foster from Texas A&M, he transferred here for his final year of play. Didn't start in defensively, but he hit at the bottom of the lineup. Just kind of did his job. Wasn't an everyday guy for Nebraska, but just was kind of there in that in the clubhouse. You had this blend of real experienced guys, and then Max Anderson and this young crew.
And Bryce.
Yeah, and Bryce. And then after that, it was like, all right, Bryce, Max, Griffin Everett, you're kind of thrown into this. And
you are now leaders.
Yeah, figure out how to be that senior class, that fifth-year senior class of 2021. And I feel like Nebraska is still trying to figure that out because not that I think that's something to be, said for is that it's difficult to try to tell a sophomore class to be a fifth-year senior class. And that's one thing I think Nebraska has lacked over these last couple of years.
And is that what you're going to have to do next year with Carey, with Karen, and then who else is the core? Gabe Swanson?
Yeah.
Maybe Garrett Anglim if he's healthy?
Yeah, that's just so difficult. That's so difficult because then it's like, are you asking too much of Dylan Carey?
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking too much? You could argue that maybe Nebraska asked too much of Max and Bryce right off the bat, but it ended up panning out. They grew into it. Yes.
They stepped up to the plate the next season, and that might happen again this next year where you might have a down year, and then the next year you'll be good, but then maybe you put yourself in the same situation the year after that.
But what does that mean for the coaching?
You might put yourself into a vicious cycle of this, and that's going to be the problem with losing so many people and bringing so many people in via the transfer portal. And it might sound weird, but having guys play at such a high level that when they are draft eligible, that they will go into the draft. Like you can have guys play at a high enough level that you have success at the collegiate ranks and you as a team work, but maybe they're not high enough where they're going to get drafted in the first 8 rounds and end up leaving.
I just think something that
speaks to lineup depth.
Yeah. And that's one thing that Will Bolt said immediately after their loss on Saturday was that what they're going to do is just general roster depth. It just felt like, and so I think when you look at a lot of times in baseball, it's like, especially towards the end of the Big Ten tournament, and if you find yourself in a regional, right? And if you are unlucky or you're unable to be undefeated and get that day off, like Nebraska was last week, you need somebody to step up that you didn't really expect to step up. Will Walsh was that guy last week. But when you look at potential, like a regional team, and you look back at that 2021 team, I will never forget the gut that Kyle Perry had. The gut that Kyle Perry had coming off that first Tommy John surgery. And he comes in against Arkansas in I can't remember, did he start the game against Arkansas? Was it like a bullpen game?
It was
game 6 or 7.
I believe it was a bullpen.
It would have been game 6. It was the one they won.
Yeah, I think that one was a bullpen game because I think they were saving.
He came in and he just slammed the door. He just did his job. And it was like this guy that is first time back or first appearance back is going up against the national #1 seed and just laying it all out there. I mean, just a gutsy performance, and you just had guys step up, whether it was like a Mojo Hagee, whether it was obviously Spencer Schwellenbach was always there, but it's like somebody was always there, whether it was Jackson Hallmark just doing his job out of the leadoff spot, where it's like it's not pretty. That's where the whole gritty over pretty thing came. And it feels like teams since then have wanted to adapt that mantra, but don't necessarily have the guys to adapt that mantra, or adopt that mantra. So
they want to play that small ball. They want to be gritty, but they don't have the guys that
there's a few of them.
It's not saying that the guys aren't gritty. It just doesn't, it just doesn't work for whatever reason. And I mean, this year's team was a strong team. They're hitting the ball out of the park, day after day.
There's a few of them. There's a few of them there, but I just think the one thing about that made that 2021 roster so special was that it was from top to bottom. It was top to bottom, starters and bullpen.
Every single last one.
So